This video is sponsored by Jock Farm, a networking social media platform for fighters. The Jock Farm community helps fighters get the necessary social media exposure or even sponsorship deals. Looking for somewhere to connect among other fighters? Jock Farm does just that. But hey, don't take my word for it. Go and check it out for yourself. You can reach them on Instagram, Facebook, and even LinkedIn, simply at Jock Farm. And feel free to put an application through, as they are currently seeking new athletes to add to their roster.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for another episode of Behind the Grind with your one and only host, Simon Romero.
Mr. Chris El Guapo Gutierrez, did I say that right?
You said it right.
Awesome. How's it going today, my friends?
It's going good, man. I'm happy and I'm excited.
So you got a fight May 30th against Vince Morales. What are your thoughts on that matchup there?
I think it's a good fight. I think it's a really good matchup. He's a tough guy, but so am I. So
where do you see yourself getting the better of your opponent?
honestly, as long as I go out there and I do what I do, I'll get the win.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because I believe in my ability and I believe in what I get taught.
For sure. So it is a short notice fight, May 30th. How have you been able to prepare for it with all this coronavirus?
I had one of my friends, Brandon Royval, who's actually fighting on the same card. He was actually fighting on the Contender Series. So
okay.
I was kind of helping him out, and I was going to be able to fight in June, like late June. So I was already getting ready for mine. So he was in camp, and I was helping him. So I was staying ready. My weight was low, working out. I've been doing everything. Everything he's been doing, I've been doing. So, I always train year round. I take days off here and there, but
Of course. Yeah.
mostly it's just I'm always active. Plus I love to work out. I don't like to just sit at home and not do anything.
For sure. I know that's most of us, especially right now. It's tough not to do that.
Man, yeah. No, man, we've been blessed that we've been able to go train at have like a certain place we went to go train at. Can't say there, but we have a little spot, so we were going there.
Awesome.
And just a couple of us, and we've just been grinding.
Awesome. So before we continue with this, I don't want you to crash. All right, you gotta be careful. We need this. We need you for this interview, May 30th. We need you. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. So I'm not sure how long this fight was actually discussed. When was it actually beginning to become a possibility?
I had one of my friends, Brandon Royval, who's actually fighting on the same card. He was actually fighting on the Contender Series. So
okay.
I was kind of helping him out, and I was going to be able to fight in June, like late June. So I was already getting ready for mine. So he was in camp, and I was helping him. So I was staying ready. My weight was low, working out. I've been doing everything. Everything he's been doing, I've been doing. So I always train year round. I take days off here and there, but
Of course. Yeah.
mostly it's just I'm always active. Plus I love to work out. I don't like to just sit at home and not do anything.
For sure. I know that's most of us, especially right now. It's tough not to do that.
Man, yeah. No, man, we've been blessed that we've been able to go train at have like a certain place we went to go train at. Can't say there, but we have a little spot, so we were going there.
Awesome.
And just a couple of us, and we've just been grinding.
Awesome. So before we continue with this, I don't want you to crash. All right, you gotta be careful. We need this. We need you for this interview, May 30th. We need you. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. So I'm not sure how long this fight was actually discussed. When was it actually beginning to become a possibility? Yesterday.
Yeah,
So it wasn't too long.
It was just like, hey, this opportunity is here. It's a good fight. You want to take it? And me and my coaches, we looked at it and we jumped on it.
For sure. So before he was announced to you, did you actually know who he was in your division?
Yeah, I know who Vince Morales was the whole time. Uh, I mean, I didn't. How can I say? I don't know him like personally, but I've
Mm.
seen him fight, and I've seen him fight a couple times, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I know a little bit about him.
So before that, did you see yourselves actually like crossing paths eventually
I mean, if you fight in the UFC, you're bound to cross paths with everyone.
with anyone?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you kind of gotta have an open mind as to anyone can really get it, really, you know.
Hmm. So like you said yesterday, you got the call or the message. What were you actually doing when you got that?
I was practicing. I went to go do my practice. I had a meeting with my coach. He was just like, "Hey, this opportunity presented itself." He took me in his office and we talked. He was like, this opportunity presented itself. And he was like, "I like it. What do you think?" And I was like, "Shit, I like it. I'm ready to fight.
You gotta love it.
I'm ready."
So you weren't singing in the shower or cooking in the kitchen or anything?
No, 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 no. You know what's funny is that like I was actually gonna go home and eat like a big meal. I was just gonna
For
go.
sure.
I was gonna pig out, but obviously it was gonna be healthy food, right? But I was just gonna eat
Mm.
a lot of it.
A lot of it, yeah.
And then he was just like, now we got the fight. It's like, oh, got to tone it down a little bit.
That's all right. You could have had the meal, but you got to fight instead.
There you go. I'll celebrate afterwards.
For sure. So before this interview, we were talking a little bit of Spanish. I don't know too much personally, but I can understand a little bit, I guess you say. So talk about your background first of all. Where do your roots come from?
Like, well, my dad's Colombian and my mom's
Okay.
from Guatemala.
Hmm.
So that's where my roots come from. That's just Hispanic. That's it.
What makes it different from any culture around the world?
I just think it's just in our blood. It's just there's just some things that are just instilled in like your DNA, and
Hmm.
I just think fighting for just like family, that love, um, fighting for what you want, fighting for what the things that you want to have in life.
Hmm.
I've It doesn't come easy. It is what it is. Being Hispanic, there's just you have a color to your skin, and it makes you have to fight more. You have that blood in you also. So it's hard to explain it, but yeah, it's just you can feel it.
For sure. So when you explained that you wanted to be a fighter to your family or anyone in the family, what did they actually think about it?
When I told them that I wanted to fight,
Hmm.
uh,
If you can remember, anyways.
no, I do. Of course, man. Like my mom was like not about it at all.
For sure. That's
I,
common, I guess.
yeah, exactly. My mom always thought I was getting beat up, and it's true. When I still get beat up to this day. So she wasn't too far from it. So,
Hmm.
but
She was close.
yeah, she was close all the time. Um, you know, growing up, we were always like fans of like, whew, excuse me, like Bruce
No worries.
Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, all of them. So
Okay.
we were always like, going around kicking each other and trying to be, Bruce Lee and all that.
Mm.
And just, the fighting spirit of a Hispanic, just that fighting blood is just it's in us. So those two combinations kind of went hand in hand.
And a big one I wanted to discuss, going off topic here, if you could add one specific rule in MMA, what would that be and why?
One rule in MMA.
Like there's the open scoring, which has been discussed very very commonly now.
Yeah, the open scoring and also the weight cut.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's a big one then.
I think just like if you weigh 160 pounds, have someone else that weighs 160 pounds, and you guys both go in there and handle your business, and then that's it.
Okay.
The cutting weight, man, that's just like if they could take that out, man, that'd be good. But also the open scoring, man. I just think these judges, especially judges that never fought a day in their life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, these are judges that never fought a day in their life, and they're at the highest level, or not even that, man. Even from like local shows,
Mm-hmm.
they screw people over, honestly.
For sure.
So
So if we date back to that Cruz fight, what do you think about the whole aftermath of Keith Peterson making the tweets and all that about Mr. Cruz? If you saw
what did
that.
what did he? No, I didn't see that. What did he say?
There's one, if I can remember correctly, there's a post on Twitter. It said how I'm waking up the next morning or something like that, and yeah, Dominic Cruz like laying on the floor like when he was getting knocked down. I'll have to pull that up, but
Yeah, man, that's kind of
it's a little bit
savage,
rough.
man. But honestly, man, I think that fight was horrible. Like just that was a horrible decision.
Bad call.
Bad call from the ref. Um, yeah, not good, man. Because it was only like what 2 to 3 seconds left in the
Something
fight.
like that.
It was like 5 seconds left in the fight,
Yeah.
and it's something else if he was legit laying on the floor, just like out, like
Oh, yeah.
knocked out. But he wasn't, man. He was getting up. You got to remember, man. Like we're fighting at the highest level. Like
Mhm.
when, for people that don't really know fighting, like when you fight at the highest level, and you got somebody hurt, you know how to. I mean, you know how to keep a person down.
Mhm.
But at the same time, on the flip side, you know how to defend yourself. These are elite fighters. These are not just. You know what I mean? Like we earned a shot to be there, and for it to be taken away like
For
that,
sure.
it just sucks, man. Because like how much effort and time and energy goes into a fight, and then for it to be stopped, that's what I
Especially
tell.
in the title fight too. It's not just any regular fight.
That's what I tell people. I hate that when people have these
Mhm.
loud ass cars, and it's just like, oh, it's an ugly car too.
Is that a pet peeve of yours?
It was what?
Is that a pet peeve of yours?
No, I just when they go around and they like floor it just to make sound. That was
Mhm.
like, it was like a Buick, and it had this like loud ass system in it. This exhaust. Anyways, um,
Back on topic.
yeah, back on topic. I honestly, man, it just goes to show like the refs and the judges. But man, we need refs and judges that are like ex fighters who know what it's like.
Yeah.
Because man, that sucked, man. How much preparation Dominic put into that fight, and so did
Mhm.
Cejudo. And for it to be stopped like that, you know,
It's pretty sad.
it is, man. Especially when it's like 5. That's what I tell the refs, man. Like when the refs come to you and they say, "Anything you want me to know before we go out there?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Let me fight.
Yeah.
Let me fight. If I get dropped or I get put in a position, let me fight.
Mhm.
If I go out, I go out. Plain and simple. If I tap, I tap. If I get hurt, let my ass give me the fighting chance to get back up. If I get up and I get dropped again, let me get back up. You'll know when as a ref, you'll know when to make the right decision.
Mhm. You
If
should
you get
feel it, I
dropped
guess.
one time, yeah, exactly. If you get dropped one time and you're standing up, shouldn't
Mhm.
be a, shouldn't be a. Oh, that's it. Stop the fight.
Yeah. All right.
That's a pet peeve of mine.
That's a pet peeve. All right, the last one I got for you, and then I can let you go here. Did you know you have the same birthday as Kylie Jenner?
Really.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I'm not. I don't even know who the hell that is. I've heard the name.
Okay.
Kylie Jenner. Hold on, Kylie Jenner. Is she like a Kardashian or something? No.
That's a tough one. I thought she was like close to them, but anyways,
Yeah,
that's
I don't. Honestly, man, like there's some people in this world I just don't really care about to know
Hmm.
anything about. I guess she's one of them. Especially like the
Okay.
Kardashians. Whatever.
All right. Well, like I said, that's all I got for you. Before I let you go, though, you gotta leave something for us, a little something in Spanish, anything
Okay. A little something in Spanish. Para
for
toda mi
me.
gente, para toda mi gente latina, gracias por el amor y el apoyo. Y ahí vamos para el 30, para el otro sábado. Vamos para ganar.
Now you gotta tell us what that means in English.
So, basically, look, and we got this card again. Look at that. Okay. So, basically, what I said was like, for all my, you know, Latinos, Latinas, like, thank you for the love and support. And hopefully, I get the same love and support the week of the fight and the day of the fight. We're going next week. We're going to war.
Awesome. So before I let you go, I want to give you the opportunity to thank anyone you feel is necessary that have helped you along your journey. The floor is all yours.
I want to thank my parents, of course. I want to thank my brothers. I want to thank my team, my management team, the UFC, and yeah, man. Anyone along the way that's helped me and that supported me, I appreciate it all.
Awesome. That's all I need from you, my friend, and
Uh,
we'll be talking soon.
Man, I appreciate the interview. Thank you.
Yeah, best of luck the 30th.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Adios. Mr. Julio Arce, how are you today, my friends?
I'm really good. Everything's just a rainy day, but other than that, doing as good as I can be right now.
For sure. So you got any plans for the rest of your rainy day?
Right now it's just kind of relax, enjoy the moment. I'm reading this book right now and just like hanging out. Just me and my girlfriend just chilling, having some fun today.
For sure. What's that book all about? I didn't actually read the title.
It's actually like I got a recommendation by Jocko
Okay.
Willink. It says discipline equals freedom field manual.
Awesome.
So it's pretty wild. It's great to it gives you like just an insight on other things, and it just like really kind of puts a good perspective on you. So it's good stuff.
Sweet. So you've been reading books. Have you been up to anything else lately during your quarantine life?
Look, just doing what I can training wise, and going out for a run, doing just like workouts at home. But right now, like I said, I live in Queens, so like I'm kind of like in part of the heart of this. So I'm doing everything that I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So you got some teammates competing soon. Have you actually been able to train with them for their upcoming bouts?
For this one, I haven't really been able to. Like, we're all located in like different sections. So like, we all meet in Elmwood Park, New Jersey, to go train. And one of them lives upstate New York, the other one lives in New Jersey. So it's like for them it's a little closer than it is for me.
Yeah.
So like they're getting their training in, but right now I'm a little bit feeling on the sideline.
Yeah.
It is what it is right now.
Of course. So has there been any talks of you actually getting back in there soon?
Well, right now I have no talks of getting back into a fight soon, because like one, I haven't been able to train the way I want to train, and two, like I'm actually looking to eventually like kind of return to go to 135.
Okay.
So right now, like in the process of just making sure, like right now, make my walk around weight the way it's supposed to be, and just dialing down, kind of a couple things on the way I'm eating stuff. So then, eventually when I fight, it'll be at 35 and start like a new, back to my old journey at 135. But in a way, it's kind of like a new journey too.
For sure, yeah. So if you go down to 135, which you said you possibly can, who would you match yourself up against? Let's say they give you an opportunity to say, okay, I want this guy to be a good matchup for me.
You know what? Right now, there's a lot of talent at 35, and the division's kind of like in like a weird kind of halt.
Yeah.
But I think they finally got moving because they start like you see matchups here and there. I just think it's at the top where it's like a little rocky because out of the title. But right now it's look, I'm not a ranked fighter, but I think if they whoever they're gonna put in front of me, who they put in front of me, I don't have any specific person. I just want to be able to get back to training like normal and get a chance to fight again soon.
Of course. So fighting right now is on the side, but let's say you're in your quarantine. Okay, have you been cooking your own meals lately?
Yeah, just like we've been having like certain I would say like food, like we have like Eat Clean Bro. They're delivering meals to us. And my girlfriend used to work in food publicist, so she knows like also she's a strength and conditioning coach, so she's very meticulous about like what we're putting into our bodies, the like from carbs, the amount of protein, vegetables, all that stuff. So she's really meticulous about it. Also, we have like we place our food orders to make sure we're eating a lot of vegetables, all like the healthy stuff, and kind of cutting out the snacks that we want to have. So yeah, really just tweaking everything around, especially if I'm going back to 35, I got to make sure that, my journey to it starts now, where it's like, okay, the cut's not going to be crazy for me. And besides, I have
Yeah.
good, as before, like when I tried to make 35, it was a little harder because it was kind of just me kind of trying to handle it. But now I have, great people in my team. I have this guy, his name is Frank Benedetto, and he does he's like he kind of supervises like our strength and conditioning and our meal preps. So
Okay.
he watches all of that, and he's gonna help me with that, as well as my girlfriend, who's actually she's one of the coaches. She's actually my strength and conditioning coach, and she him and they work together to kind of help me follow this game plan through. So then it's a
For sure.
successful weight cut instead of a painful one.
So you have like a strong support system, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's use our imaginations here, right? This is gonna be a tough one, but you gotta think here. We're gonna test your brain skills, right? So let's say you don't have your support system. You go on a cruise, we'll say. Everything shuts down. You're stuck anywhere, but you can pick 3 food cooking items, I guess. Any 3 items that you feel would make a good meal, and you gotta put your cooking skills to the test. What do you use for that?
I swear that this is like you're asking me a question. You ever watch that show Naked and Afraid?
Yeah, I've seen that.
One, I've been watching that show nonstop. So it's like you're asking me one of these questions. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go.
See, you know what to do now.
All right, so like right now, I have only 3 food choices that I can
3
have.
food choices, yes.
Well, one, it would be salmon.
Okay.
Very easy to make, and I think it's just some good fish.
For sure.
Some broccoli, and always got to go with some rice in there.
Right
I
on.
love my rice.
Now, what kind of rice? There's the brown rice, the yellowish kind of rice. White rice?
White rice.
Right on. So let's say you do cook. If Gordon Ramsay is there, what do you think he would say about your cooking skills?
Oh, he'd say I'd suck. Come on, it's Gordon Ramsay. His expectations are here. My expectations are like here. I'm like, all right, this salmon tastes good. This rice tastes good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm happy.
All right, so we talked about your cooking skills. Now let's say you got to go on a food eating competition. All right. Have you ever seen one of those? Have you even been on one of those?
I've actually, I think it was when they did it in Coney Island in Brooklyn. It's like they do the hot dog eating contest. That thing's just
That's a lot of hot dogs. So you haven't done one of those yourself?
No. But
would you ever do one?
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. If you're not fighting, for sure.
Yeah, if I'm not fighting, I definitely do it.
Right on. So we got some fights coming up. Back to fighting topic. Who do you have for Woodley versus Burns?
I'd say, right now, I think you have an up-and-comer like Burns, who's very hyped, and he just finished Damian Maia in his last fight. But then you got Woodley, who's also probably more fired up than anything because, as a champ, I know for him it's been like a little bit of a tough go.
Mm-hmm.
He had his own issues, with UFC, and I feel like he just has to, it's a chance of redemption and just to show the world, why he was a champion for as long as he was. So,
of course,
let's go with Tyrone Woodley.
Okay.
And let's see. I think it might go to a decision. So let's see.
5-round decision.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I don't know. Have you seen the new series that Woodley's doing? Your strength and stuff like that. I'm about to check that out.
Yeah. Look, for everyone's different. I'm sure he's able to manage. With the he's doing like the rap, and he's doing all these shows.
That's it.
And I just hope that doesn't take away from his training.
Yeah.
Because you got somebody who doesn't have all the all that, and
all
then
that,
you're just relentlessly training because you're like, yo, this is my shot. I gotta make it count. So I always wonder about that. People who look, they make it big, and then it's like they're making all these moves to kind of keep their stock going up. But is that taken away from the focus of them training
fighting?
For fight?
Yeah.
So, who knows?
You never know.
Yeah. Maybe they found their system to be able to get everything in. So good for them.
Yeah. So let's say something like that. They offer you a kind of contract, I guess. Would you do that?
It depends. A contract in what?
Yeah, I guess like that's a tough one. On a show like that, I guess. On a show like
I think
that.
it's just like it's like depends. Like, look, if they offer me like let's say for shits and giggles, they offer me like a role in a movie. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna take that because
With
like,
Jackie Chan.
even with Jackie,
Yeah.
I still wouldn't take it because then it's like I would have to be on set, be able to get my training.
All the
Who knows
time,
how
yeah.
long that's gonna take. So it's like I think when it comes down to just you're getting ready for a fight, your focus is the fight.
Hmm. Unless it's a cooking show or baking show. Yeah, take that opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, so last one I got for you. I want to give you the opportunity to pick your own dream matchup. I pretty much asked you that, but you got to name a name.
I would definitely want to fight Dominic Cruz one day. He's awesome. He's a very interesting fighter with the style that he has developed, and I mean, like I've even before I ever made it to UFC, it's like I would watch him fight. It was just like amazed me how he made his angles and just like how like his style of fighting. So
Yeah.
I would love to one day just as I climb up, when I make my return to bantamweight, make that kind of match happen.
We'll look forward to that one. So before I let you go here, I'll give you the opportunity to thank anyone you feel is necessary. The floor is all yours.
Well, always a shout out to all the people who just follow my journey. Of course, my team, Tiger Schulman's. I miss them during this quarantine and can't wait to be back training. My sponsors, NutriBio, Eat Clean Bro. I want to give a shout out to my strength and conditioning coaches, H.R. Campbell and Frank Benedetto, who've been just really watching over what I'm eating, how I'm training, making sure I'm still staying in tip-top shape, and just my family they're always in my corner supporting me. So shout out to everybody.
Awesome. So hopefully we'll be catching up soon when you get that next fight news, and we'll be in touch.
All right, my man.
All right. Stay safe. It was a fun time.
Too, have a good one.
All right. Peace out. My friend Heather, how are you doing today?
I am doing
My friend
great.
Heather, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Glad to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, it's awesome having you on. So first of all, I want to get down to the nitty and gritty, but what's the analogy behind the boss lady story?
Back in 2010, so probably about 10 years now, I was an owner of a gym in Washington, and we had an employee named John. And every time I would come in, he would be like, "Hey, boss lady," and he would give me an update, on what was going on. And I said, "Why are you calling me that?" And he's like, "Because you're the boss lady." And I'm like, "Okay." Well, I took a fight, just one, but I took a fight in 2011 while I still owned the gym. And, I was like, back then I was like, "Oh, you have to have a nickname if you fight," amateur stuff, right? And he's like, "Well, you gotta be the boss lady," and so it stuck. It's fine.
So was that all before the matchmaking and all that?
What was that?
Was that before all the matchmaking and all that?
Yes, long before. I didn't start matchmaking at all until 2013. So yeah.
Okay.
It stuck.
Go
ahead.
Good. Can you remember the first event or promotion you actually matchmake for?
Yeah. So I started out doing MMA. Matchmaking. So I was matchmaking cage fights. And I worked for a promotion called FAMA, which stood for Fisticuffs Amateur Mixed Martial Arts. That was in 2013, as I said. And it was just a small smoker show. It was like 300 people max, in a little gym. And it was fun. I mean, it was kind of one of those things where anything goes. It was a tiny cage. It was like a dog kennel. It was tiny. Okay. And that's actually where tag team jiu-jitsu started at for me. So we did tag team jiu-jitsu back then at that show, which is where it transitioned into Submission Underground. So, yeah, but it was fun.
Awesome. So I never asked you, actually, how come you didn't stick to MMA fighting?
Oh, gosh.
Was it just a one-time thing?
It was a one-time thing. I am not good at it. I had 2 months notice. It was my own promotion. My husband at the time was the matchmaker, and this girl's opponent fell out, and he's like, "Hey, it's time for you to take one for the team. And I did. That girl.
That's awesome.
So yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'll stay out of the cage. Yeah.
Stay outside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in your own opinion, what would you say it is like matchmaking in like a male-dominated area, I guess you could say, for Submission Underground and the other promotions?
Yeah. So, as I said, I got my start with MMA for matchmaking. So the MMA scene in the Pacific Northwest knew me for that. When I started working for Chael for Submission Underground, it was like starting all over again. It was like, proving to a whole nother group of people that I can do this and I know what I'm doing. And obviously Chael trusts me to do it. And there's got to be something said for that, right? But it's still even nowadays still trial and error. I mean, people are still second guessing my matchmaking and I second guess it. I mean, people, you're going to do that yourself,
For sure.
But
yeah.
now I get the very public peanut gallery also. I'll make a match and some people are like, oh my God, that's phenomenal. And you're like, yay. And then other times they're like, oh, this guy should go against, people are always bashing us about who Craig should go against, Craig Jones. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so there's a certain point where you have to be confident in what you do and then also be open to, what the public wants to see too. So it's hard. It has its bad days, but it has really rewarding days and it makes it worth it. So.
Of course. So what would you say some of the pros and cons would be of that?
I mean, the pros are, having a great show and having news articles the next day say, oh, phenomenal, entertaining night, right? I mean, it's like you want your matchmaking to be entertaining and you don't, the biggest difference between MMA and jiu-jitsu matchmaking is in MMA, if the whole card loses, or if the whole card ends in the first round, you're like, oh my God, this is horrible matchmaking, and you go home and you're like, what was I thinking? And then with jiu-jitsu, if that happens, if everything ends in the first minute, you're like, oh my God. And yet sometimes they're like, oh no, that's exciting. Because that means they get submitted, it's not like a overtime, blah, blah, blah. So trying to, the pros are when you have a good night, everyone's happy for them. I mean, you can't make everyone happy, but when people are, they leave going, oh, there was a knockout or, oh, there was a really slick submission by so-and-so. I mean, I can't take credit for what happens in there, but you try and lay down the foundation for it. As far as the cons go, I mean, we had a rough night at Submission Underground 11, I think it was, right before the coronavirus stuff. And it was when the tag team jiu-jitsu happened in the main event with Craig and Vinny and all them, Nikki, Rod, and Kyle. The next day after that, the backlash was horrible. We had issues with people being pissed about the main event and being pissed about some of the ref decisions and, so on and so forth. People were upset when we put Austin Vanderford against Richie Martinez. They're like, oh my God, that's, Austin has no chance, Yeah. And yet here we are, Austin won. And so it's just a crapshoot. I mean, you just hope for the best and you just have to realize you can't please everybody. But man, when it's a good night, you get to go home and like have enough of a glory feeling that you want to do it again. So it keeps me going.
Which makes sense. So at the beginning of this, you mentioned you do work for other promotions. What are the current states or situation for those promotions starting up again?
They're not. So I work for a promotion in Washington. I just started working for them in December called Cage Sport, and it's all professional MMA. And they've been around for 20 years now.
Wow, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. But they function out of the casino, and the casino, of course, shut down. They didn't have to, but they did shut down during the coronavirus. And they just reopened, I think yesterday, the casino did. But the governors aren't letting them do anything. Probably I would anticipate the next time we can have MMA on the West Coast will unfortunately not be until probably 2021. So, but I don't want to say it's good timing for me, but in a way it's kind of worked out because Chael just did shows back to back to back every month, and so he's kept me busy. It's allowed me to kind of shift my focus to Submission Underground completely, which has been nice. We've had a lot of attention for the last 2 events because there's nothing else on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that the UFC is back on, it's like, okay, we got to work a little bit harder again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I also work for the FCFF in Portland, which is all amateur MMA, and it's actually owned also by Chael. So he co-owns it, which is how I kind of got into Submission Underground. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you seem to work with Chill quite a lot. What's it like working with that guy? He seems like a very outgoing guy.
That's kind of like the number one question I get. And it's hard to explain. I mean, he's great. He's wonderful. He's intense. And he's funny and he's witty and he's also petty. And I like all of that, Working with Chael means that I get text messages sometimes at 2:00 in the morning, about random stuff. And then when I respond, it's like, why are you awake? I'm like, why are you awake? And it also means that, he calls me and says, hey, we're going to try and do weekly shows. And I'm like, are you trying to kill me? It's just never, it's a train that never stops moving. He's constantly a mile a minute. I don't think he doesn't know how to take a day off, and for me, I'm a very controlled, planner type. I am kind of a control freak. I like to know what's going on, at all times. And with Chael, you have to constantly be ready for change at any given moment. Last 2 shows ago, right after the coronavirus hit, it was 2 days before the event, and he messages me and says all the competitors have to have long sleeve rash guards and spats. And I'm like, we already had Jake Ellenberger in town. We already had, Craig, and everything. And it's, it's just, you just constantly have to be ready. But the one thing about working with Chael is that, he's super smart, super business savvy. He's just a very high intellect and very creative and clever and good at what he does. And so at some point you sit back and you say, in Chael, I trust, and you just go along for the ride. He hasn't let me down yet. So yeah, it's crazy. I'm very lucky.
Yeah. So the next time you work with him is May 31st. Talk about some key matches that we could see the 31st.
Oh, there's some really good ones. Something that I'm getting a lot of flack for is the main event of the undercard, I should say. So the last bout before the main card, and it happens to be Don Stoner versus Roberto Jimenez. And Roberto kind of got put on our doorstep. I think he's 19 or 20 now, and just a phenomenal athlete. Black belt. He's been trained over with Henzo Gracie guys. You got the Danaher Death Squad over there. And he's just been running ship at all the tournaments, and everyone's like, you got to have him. Well, we put him on the undercard, and people were like, what? And it's like, he's 19 or he's 20, and but what's funny about him is that he, I've been doing this for like 10 years. Jiu-jitsu has been around for a very long time, MMA's been around for a long time, and a lot of us have, my age have all said, what's really scary is the next generation, because people my age are training their kids when they can crawl. It's no longer like, did you do wrestling in high school? And then you learned jiu-jitsu when you were 20. No, now we have people like Roberto, who's 20, and black belt, which is crazy. And so I'm excited to bring him in. His opponent, Don Stoner, is on a 2-match or back-to-back wins with our promotion. And he was eager and excited about it. People automatically assume he's the underdog. I don't know. There's something to be said for being around for a long time and being, 20. I don't know. But the main card speaks for itself. We have Craig Jones at the top. Once again, we can't get anyone to beat him.
Not yet, no.
Earlier, it's like we just want Craig to lose, because we want to know that he can, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, the only way he can lose is if we bring in Gordon Ryan. I'm like, it's his teammate.
Yeah.
I say it till I'm dead to the wall, but people just are like, so? It's like, no. And Wagner's beat him before under the same rule set, basically. And so it'll be curious to see if the weight difference plays a role. And, it's been a few years since that match happened. So there's that variable. We brought in Brent Primus from Bellator, which is super exciting. We've wanted to have him on for a long time, but he's had, fight conflicts and whatnot. And he was originally matched up against Michael Chiesa, which is Big Shields, which some would argue is definitely an upgrade for an opponent. But Brent, to his credit, said, let's do it. And, so I'm excited for that. They're both black belts, obviously. And, Jake's an OG legend. So, I mean, and then we got Austin Vanderford, who's kind of like the new it guy, I mean, he shocked the world when he beat Boogeyman, right? So he did that, and we got him against Checo now for this one, which they were supposed to go against each other a couple shows ago, and Checo got hurt. So it's kind of like a long overdue match.
Yeah.
But okay. And Checo's on a win streak with us too, so he's undefeated at Submission Underground. And we brought in Andrew Alexander. Andrew lost at the last event, and so people are like, "Oh, why are you bringing Andrew back?" But Andrew is one of those guys that he'll go against anybody. I mean, he calls out Chael. He's given us a list of names from Anthony Smith to Uriah Hall Uriah Faber, rather, and he doesn't care. Put him in there, and he wants to do it. And so we like him. And he's going to take on Jordan Holy. And Jordan Holy is known with our promotion, for beating Frank Rosenthal out of the DDS up there in New York. So it's exciting to have him come back. He's phenomenal. So our main card is just awesome. But we have a great undercard too. I mean, we really have some good names that have been with us before. That are coming back. I just looked at the card a few minutes ago, and I'm drawing a blank for some. But,
yeah, there's a lot on there.
There's a lot. Yeah, we have 10 matches total, 4 in the main card, so we have 6 undercard matches. We have a guy on there named Charlie Gilpin. He was on our last event. He is a purple belt, a newer purple belt, but we're trying to, we've gone back and forth between saying, everyone's welcome in our show, including kids matches. We started out doing 20 plus matches a card, and now we've gotten down to like 10 matches, and we decided we were going to do all black belts. So we switched to all black belts. Well, now we're kind of like, maybe we can build up some people in our promotion, like Charlie Gilpin and like that, even though they're a purple belt, we can, build them up, and, it'd be nice to make some jiu-jitsu stars,
Sure.
So we're looking at that. The next show, we're going to have a tournament, that's been advertised a little bit. So it still varies. We're still just finding our way and what works for us, but it's good. We're 14 shows in, so that's good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah. So before this, I saw a couple comments with the Florida boy and Brent Primus, I believe it was. If Primus wins this week, the 31st, is that a possible matchup?
Oh, it's always a possible matchup. Originally, the Florida boy, AJ Egazarm, his beef has been back and forth with Chris Lencioni, who also is trained alongside Brent Primus here in Oregon. They've been bantering back and forth, but their problem is that Lencioni says that he'll take a grappling match with AJ if AJ will take a fight with him in Bellator.
Okay. So it's like a 1-on-1.
Yeah, it which makes sense. I mean, some would argue that AJ has the upper hand, obviously, in jiu-jitsu, and Lencioni has the upper hand in the cage. So, for MMA, but yeah, no, actually, that's the first I've heard about AJ versus Brent. But I'm fine with it. I think that's great. Yeah.
All right. So before I let you go here, I want to give you the opportunity to thank anyone you feel is necessary. Any shout outs? The floor is all yours.
I you gotta thank Chael Sonnen, right? I mean, he's the reason why we're having these shows during quarantine, and it's good. We're gonna have our show. I'll give the shout out next Sunday, May 31st. Is Submission Underground 14, and it starts at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or 6 p.m. on the East Coast, and it's on UFC Fight Pass exclusively. And then we're also right now recruiting all black belts for the tournament next month for who can win in an 8-man tournament and $10,000, and then take on Craig Jones at the next show. So yeah,
Awesome.
So we'll see how that pans out with those names and who can actually do it. So yeah.
Awesome. So it was a pleasure having you on, and wish
Yeah.
you the best of luck the 31st, and we'll be talking soon.
All right. Thanks, Simon. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Mr. Drysdale, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Simon?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So how's it going in Las Vegas today?
It's going good. The weather's beautiful. It's normally not as hot as it normally is by this time of the year. You know, normally by this time you're getting 100+ degrees, and it's been in the 80s. Maybe 90s every now and then, but it's been nice. Other than this pandemic that we can't wait for it to be over, life is good.
Yeah, for sure. It looks nice and sunny behind you, so can't complain.
It's beautiful out here.
Yeah, so have they decided when they're actually going to begin opening things up down in Las Vegas?
Yeah, there's no official date. We know the casinos are open June 1st with some restrictions.
Okay.
And the word for gym aren't out yet. Like, they don't know for sure, but some gyms are opening despite what the state says. And I think that if the governor give in, I think might have some people mutiny against the governor at this point. People are fed up, and I'm kind of fed up too, to be honest. It's a big ask us to pay all our bills.
Yeah.
It really isn't fair on the population.
For sure. So, Robert, you are a black belt under the IBJJF banner, an ADCC absolute champion. What can you tell us about how you began in your career?
Started when I was around 16. It was, I was a teenager looking for something. I think teenagers are often looking for something to belong to and are looking for an identity. And some people find that identity. I found mine early on. I wasn't forced to work when I was 16 like many of my friends were. And we're not forced. Like, sometimes when you're on 16, your parents kind of give you a kick up the butt and go, go figure it out on your own. I had it good enough. I had enough freedom to pursue, some of my own ambitions, and there was some room there to pursue my dreams. And I was lucky enough to find BJJ at the right time in my life. I was at the right place at the right time, and everything worked out in my favor. Like, I can't really, I can't be thankful enough. It was a matter of, there's an element of luck there. And when I found BJJ, I didn't expect much of a career out of it, but I knew I had found something that, I felt was my identity, like that belonged to. It was no doubt that I had found something special and something that I wanted to be part of.
Yeah, it was something meant to be, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I could say that.
Yeah, so like you said, at 16 you began. Can you remember your first tournament or match you actually competed in?
Yes, I remember well, actually. I had been training for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and there was
so not long.
Oh, no. And I don't know why, because I was always terrified of competition, but I think because I was so set on making BJJ a part of my identity, I felt that part of that new identity was to confront my fears. And so I kind of forced myself to compete, and I definitely wasn't ready. I ended up fighting the kid who won the whole thing, and I think he tapped what felt like seconds. It was probably really like seconds, like maybe just under a minute at best, and he beat me and he won the whole thing. And it was my first fight. And yeah, I wasn't happy, but at the same time, I wasn't super hard on myself. I didn't go in there expecting to win. I really went in there expecting the experience. Like, what am I going to get out of the experience? And I got a lot. Like, I got a glimpse of the competition world, and I liked it. It was even in Brazil. So we're talking 98 here. So it was a new scene, and it was the early days of the jiu-jitsu boom. in Brazil, and I was just happy to be part of it. Like, I like the environment, I like the people there, I like everything about that the jiu-jitsu world. So, even was I debuted with a huge crushing defeat, it was still a good day.
For sure. So it didn't go your way, but what actually motivated you to continue with your journey? Was it just like the winning on the side, or what was it really?
It wasn't really a choice. It was like when people talk about motivation, like, oh, I'm going to motivate myself if I read a book, or if I listen to this audio tape, or if I talk to that person. I don't really believe that. I don't know. Like, when I hear these motivational speakers, sometimes I don't even know what they're talking about. Like, if you if you're hungry, you don't go around like listening to audio tapes about how you should eat. If you're hungry, what do?
Yeah.
You eat.
You go find food. Yeah.
If you want something, you don't have to listen to an audio tape or read a book on it. I don't get that. Like, you just go and do it. So to me, it was never really a matter of motivation. It's just more like it was so natural to me to just go back and do it again. It was like going to the fridge and reaching for food when I was hungry. Like, that's what it felt like. It's like saying that if you're really hungry, you're really disciplined because you go eat food every time you're hungry, or you sleep every time you're sleepy. Is that discipline? Every night, 11 o'clock at night, I go to bed and I sleep. Is that discipline? I don't know if it is. I think it is. You do it every night. That's not all about jiu-jitsu. It wasn't an effort. It was never a choice to be had. It was, and there was never a discussion going on in my mind whether I should go to practice or compete. It just never happened.
So not only do you have your own career in jiu-jitsu, and I believe you competed in MMA once, correct?
A few times, and 9 fights total.
Okay. How did that go for you?
I went well. I won my first fight was an amateur fight. I won first round submission. My next 7 fights were first round submissions. My last fight was a second round submission. So up to my last fight, all my fights were first round submissions. And then I retired from MMA because I was kind of fed up with the MMA world. It just wasn't interesting to me anymore.
Fair enough. So you kind of turned to a podcast. I've seen. What's going on over there? How long has that been run for you?
So I started a podcast with David Avalan about just over a year ago, maybe. And it's been a lot of fun, man. Like, me and Dave are good friends. We got a lot in common. And he lives in Vegas. So we decided
close, I guess.
Yeah, and he's training at the gym, and we're like, man, why don't we do something fun together? Why don't we, try to have a chat with people and try to share some of our experiences with other known fighters, and a lot of fun. Like, with something that it doesn't take a lot of our time. Like, neither of us are it's not our full-time job. It's more of a hobby that 2 friends have, and it's been going good. We've had some really interesting people on our podcast in the past, and I enjoy it now. Like, I enjoy chatting with people and seeing different perspectives, and what's interesting is that we're able to see how even though I have a lot in common with a lot of the people we speak to, we are at the same time. Still some commonalities, but like some major differences as well.
Of course. So is there like a main topic, I guess you could say, that you discuss in your videos?
We try to get into the mindset mainly. Like, I think that the conversation about technique, there's not much to say. Like, when talk about technique, people seem to get stuck on that old school, new school debate, which is really pointless. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's kind of like a dumb conversation, really. Because one is so dependent on the other. You don't have one without the other. Jiu-jitsu is constantly improving. People, we tend to frame everything in a binary way. Everything has got to be left or right, up or down, old and new, and I think it's just too simplistic of an approach to jiu-jitsu. So the conversation about technique is not something that really interests me a lot. I mean, there's not a lot to say, really. I don't feel like it.
For sure.
In terms of mindset, I think that's a more interesting conversation. Coaching, like mindset for fighting, for coaching, strategy, some politics in jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of politics to talk about. So we try to focus more on. I think we wanted a podcast that was a little more of a something more for the brainiac practitioner than someone that was interested in whether so and so caught COVID or so and so said what to so and so, and just conversations were dead ends. Like, we didn't want dead end conversations. So I think there's a lot of that in when people interview or do podcasts, and we just want to do something a little more mentally oriented, like that.
Something a little different, I guess you could say.
Deep, the rabbit hole that is the mind. That was the goal when we first started.
So you got a lot going on in your life. What's going on with this new documentary you have? When is it actually being released?
Man, we're way behind schedule. I always apologize to the fans and the people that have been waiting for this for so long. But it's a lot of work, and we want to do it right because we feel that we're going to do something that is archival, something that we believe reference in the future for decades. You look at other films on jiu-jitsu like Choke or Gracie in Action, and they're 30 years old. We're still watching them.
Yeah.
And we want to do something that's like that, but better. I think we have a film that's much better quality than anything that has ever been done in the jiu-jitsu world. We went pretty deep into the history of Brazilian jiu-jitsu as far as its participants, its clashes with judo and other martial arts. Many of the historical events that led to BJJ. So I think that we do a good job of explaining how BJJ came about. And I don't think that it's ever going to be able to be redone because the grandmasters are all dying. Just to give you an idea, 4 of them have passed away.
Okay.
Right?
Sorry to hear that. Yeah.
3 of them that we interviewed, and the 4th one, George Medit, never gave us an interview, but he was on the list. And we're losing them. Like every year, every 6 months, we lose another one. And, so 10 years from now, I don't think this will be able to, it's not going to be redone. Because the people that could speak to people who knew these characters are not going to be around anymore. So
we
really want to be like the definite documentary for the history of BJJ.
Yeah, so could you give us like a sneak peek? I know you said it's like the battles between judo, jiu-jitsu, and all that, but like what's it called and all that, all the good stuff?
It's called Closed Guard, The Origins of Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil. And we decided to call it Closed Guard because it's a classic position of jiu-jitsu. I think the guard is really, it is one aspect that separates BJJ from judo. Not that the guard doesn't exist in judo, but I think if we had to choose a position that defines BJJ, I think the guard would be it,
Okay.
And closed because the story has been closed. It's been locked. And the unlocking of the story really is the research renaissance that began, approximately 8 years ago. And, after that, there's so much that started to come to the surface in regards to the history of BJJ. And that was sort of like I mentioned, like a renaissance in research, and like people started looking back in our past and realizing that there was a lot more to the story that Julio and Gracie told the world, that Julio told the world, or that Carlos Gracie told the world. And it's not that they, I don't like to say that they lied so much, but they left a lot out. They helped some detriment of other people. And so the last thing we ever wanted was to detract from anything anyone has ever done. Right? But we wanted to give credit to all the characters. So in some ways, it's a celebration of everyone and all the events, not just the people, but the historical events that made BJJ possible. Little things like, the opening of the ports in Japan to the West. That Jigoro Kano to create judo. And judo is the mother and father of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's no way out of that, What Maeda and all the other Japanese were teaching in Brazil was judo. It was not, Jiu-Jitsu it's an archaic term. We just rebranded the term, and Brazilians did, to define like judo on the ground and call it jiu-jitsu. But really what they were doing was judo, and there's really no way out of that. I don't see a way out of that. So I of
course,
I prefer to call it Brazilian judo. I think it's a more appropriate term for what we do.
A mix of the both.
Yeah, well, jiu-jitsu. The word jiu-jitsu predates judo, but the jiu-jitsu that was practiced in the pre-Meiji era has nothing to do with the jiu-jitsu that is practiced today. The jiu-jitsu that we practice today is judo on the ground, basically.
Yeah.
Just sophisticated. Like we passed judokas in terms of technique. In the last 2 decades, especially, like competition in BJJ has gone to a whole new level, and like judokas aren't even near the level of ground that we find in BJJ. So it really is a different martial art at this point, but it wasn't in its inception of BJJ in Brazil. It it was judo, and Brazilians just eventually started modifying the rules enough to create their own sport. But we want to talk about that. We want to talk about Japanese immigration. We want to talk about the role of Maeda. I think Maeda is a character that's he's blown out of proportion, so to speak, right? Okay. Like a character that people put on this pedestal, and he helped create BJJ, and he gave all this knowledge to Carlos, and it was more one of those things where Maeda's really retired when he goes to the He's not really fighting anymore, barely teaches. But, he was famous. So many Brazilians, Carlos amongst them, they use Maeda as someone to give credibility to themselves. And it was very common for people to do that at the time because he was so popular. But Maeda actually has a small role in spreading judo/jiu-jitsu in Brazil. He really doesn't do that much. And we want to talk about that, not to diminish his role, but, to paint a fair and accurate picture of how BJJ came about. Right?
Which makes sense. Yeah.
One of the founding fathers of modern MMA. We wanted to talk about Takeo Yano and the Ono brothers. And all these other characters were left out. We wanted to talk about the role of catch wrestling in BJJ. Right? Catch wrestling. The Brazilians to this day, they don't say armbar, they don't say chave de braço, they don't say jujigatami, they say arm lock.
Okay. There's a lot of different terms.
Leggy lock, right? The kimura in some gyms is referred to as Americana. So I can't. There's no way of proving this, but I speculate that it is influence of catch wrestling because Americana and army locky and leggy locky, they're not terms from judo or in Brazilian Portuguese vocabulary. These are American words that were imported and Brazilianized and incorporated into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So my theory is that this comes from catch wrestling. So catch wrestling would have played a role in BJJ as well. The circus, fake fights. Fake fights were very important in promoting BJJ because people didn't understand it.
Okay. Brazil, I didn't know that.
Fans can understand. So Maeda was involved in fake fights. Everyone's involved in fake fights. It was practically the norm at the time to stage fights because if it fought for real, the public just didn't understand it. The average person, your mom's gonna watch a jiu-jitsu match and she's like, "What the hell is going on?" So they make it more acrobatic and more, more circus-like to make it entertaining to the audience. And I think we wanted to talk about all these things. We wanted to move away from that simplistic approach that BJJ was just something that might have taught Carlos and Carlos taught the world, and I think it's too simplistic of an approach, and I don't think it does the complexity of the sport justice.
Of course, so we could talk days and days about this, but we're running a little bit short on time. So before I let you go here, I want to give you the opportunity to thank anyone you feel is necessary, and the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you, Simon. Well, we have a really talented production team out of Virginia. Steve Jeter, Jay Coleman, Daniel Jeter. We had some help from a lot of historians out there: Fabio Takao, Roberto Pedreira, Marcial Serrano, Elton Silva. We've had some really a team of very special people that have helped us throughout this journey, and often not even asking for anything in return. They were just doing it out of out of love for history and telling history accurately. So I wanted to thank them for and foremost. The fans, a lot of people have been very supportive of this project. I wanted to thank the investor, Mairbek Casilla, for believing in the project, right, and telling history accurately in his words. When I mentioned to him that there's a chance that we weren't going to make his money back, these are his words. He goes, "It's okay as long as you tell the truth." All right, so this guy's more about truth than he's about making his money back, which made me admire him a lot. And, just, we asked people to follow us on Instagram. We have an account, Close Guard the Movie, at Close Guard the Movie. Our website is closeguardfilm.com. And, follow us, check us out, stay tuned for our updates. We will be releasing this documentary, and we hope to change the history of BJJ, or how people perceive it at least. And it will be out before the end of the summer, so it's coming soon.
Exciting. So last one I got for you, where will this documentary be available?
On our website, closeguardfilm.com.
Okay, perfect. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll be catching up soon.
Thank you, Simon. It's a pleasure.
Stay safe. Take care.
All right. We out?
Miss Lauren. How are you today, my friend?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Not as good as you. Obviously, you got a fight coming up. How's everything going in preparation for that?
Really well. Feeling good. Weight's low. Sparring's been going good. So, yeah.
For sure. So, have you been able to actually get a training session in today yet? Or is that
Yeah, I
after,
just got done
after
training.
this? And how did that go for you? Awesome. So, happy Monday, by the way. I forgot to wish you happy Monday. Yeah, so it is Monday. Is that something you look forward to in the beginning of the week?
Do I look forward to Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, as much as any other day. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So, like I said, June 20th, you got to fight. What would the win actually mean for you if you beat Roxanne?
It would mean a lot of money.
For sure.
Way above
Yeah,
up
so like you said, you used to watch her on TV. What's it like actually being able to, you're going to be across the cage from her. What do you think about that?
It's a big honor. Yeah, I'm super excited to face somebody like Roxanne. It's a big deal.
Yeah, so what have you been able to adjust to her fighting style, or have you had to at all?
Oh, I haven't fought her yet, so I don't know.
Well, which makes sense, but from like recordings and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know, because you never know how the fight's going to go until you get in there. You know, I don't
Makes
know.
sense, yeah.
I've been working hard. She's probably improved quite a bit between now and her last fight. So, it's that's kind of the game, is are you able to adjust in the fight or not, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how, from the tapes, if you've watched any tapes, how different is she to you than your other opponents?
I don't know if she is, you know? I mean, she's going to try to punch me in the face, I think.
Maybe.
She'll probably try to take me down. She's always talking about her Muay Thai coach and, you know, working on her elbows and stuff. So I know that, you know, I can expect that. I think she's going to try to clinch a little bit so that she can show off her clinch game. And then if she takes me down and she gets on top, I think she's probably got real heavy hips, and she's a good ground practitioner.
Yeah, so the fight is in Las Vegas. Have you actually looked about the after plans yet?
I'm sorry?
Have you looked at like the after party after the fight in Las Vegas?
No, everything's shut down. I don't think there's going to be an after party.
Which makes sense. In the hotel or whatnot, eating a burger.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. All right, so when you actually received the contract, I know you were going training at the time. What went through your head when you read that name?
Oh, I knew it was coming. I mean, we have to agree to it before they send the contract. Otherwise, they wouldn't send the contract. Yeah. So,
For sure.
Yeah. So it's just exciting. It's, you know, it's another good fight in the UFC for me.
Yeah, so we've talked a little bit about fighting. A topic I wanted to discuss with you today was, I was amazed when I found out when you actually, you foster an elephant, correct?
Yeah, I do. I foster an elephant. Yeah, through the elephant sanctuary that I foster through is based in Kenya, and it's a really good program. It's called the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust Company, and my husband bought me he fostered an elephant for me for my birthday last year.
Right
so I think it's pretty cheap. It's like, I don't know, how much is it, babe? It's like $50 minimum a year, which is
really, that's not bad actually.
Cheap. Yeah, and then all the proceeds go to that, you know, to that trust, and they hire locals to help take care of the elephants. They do a really good job. They raise them from, you know, whatever age they're orphaned at. They raise them into adulthood, and then they're released back into the wild. So a lot of those elephants go on to, you know, have babies of their own and increase the elephant population, which is endangered. So, yeah, I love fostering those elephants.
That's awesome. So were you able to like pick the name and all that?
No, they're already named. You can go on the website and pick out which elephant you want to foster, you know, kind of based on their story that they have. And the elephant that I fostered just had a super touching story that really hit home for me, and so she was the one I wanted to foster.
That's awesome. So I was gonna ask you, were you able to pick it, or did they like assign you an elephant?
You can do that where you can have them assign you an elephant if you don't want to pick, but I wanted to pick one, and so I went through the website and I read like all of their stories and where each elephant
It's
comes
awesome.
from, yeah, and how they were orphaned and how their personalities are. I mean, they're just like people. They all have their own personalities and they've all been through pretty traumatic events. It spoke to me so much. So um it's a super cool organization to be able to support. I'm super proud actually that I get to support that organization, and I feel like I get way more in return than what we actually pay for. So someday I hope to be able to go visit their nursery and go
I was just gonna
see
ask
what they
you that,
do
yeah.
in person. Yeah, I would love that, to be able to
That'd
go
be
to
pretty
Kenya
cool.
yeah, and see what they do. I don't know if I'll ever be able to meet the orphan that I foster, but
Hmm.
it's just such a cool program and such a cool thing that they do. I really encourage everybody to look into it. And they rescue more than just elephants too. They have all sorts of wildlife there that is in need. And then I also support an elephant sanctuary in Thailand as well.
Okay, so you support two, not just one.
Yeah, one in Kenya and one in Thailand. Yeah.
That's awesome. So we talked about your elephants now. We got to talk about these negative comments that were flying around. I know you talked about that in a couple interviews, but how are you able to keep your head on straight and focus and ignore that stuff?
Well, it just kind of depends. Like it's not always easy, of course, but
For sure.
like I got off Twitter for a few days. Sometimes I think about getting back on Twitter to post like these interviews and things like that, or maybe to communicate like with fans or with the press, but I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't seem worth it to me because social media can be so hateful.
Of
And
course, yeah.
yeah, it can just be really, really hateful, and I just don't know if it's worth it to me. I don't think I deserve the amount of hate that I've gotten,
No
certainly.
one
And
does, for sure.
yeah, nobody does. And I was just talking to my husband about the case with Hannah Kimura that happened. I think she committed suicide last Friday, and we were talking a lot about how, people for one day on Twitter are going to be like, oh, Twitter bullies, we have to do something about this. Twitter bullies, it needs to stop. And cyberbullying is a problem. And then the next day, everybody just goes back to doing what they were doing. And that poor woman, it's like when she was getting bullied, nobody came to her defense. Nobody stood up for her. The reality show that she went on didn't come forward and defend her to the fans. The producers of that reality show are not going to make any changes in the future, I would guess. And the media didn't support her at all. So, recently I did a podcast with MMAfighting.com, and it was a really good podcast. It was an hour long. So the odds of people watching the entire hour are not great. And somebody that works for MMAfighting.com, Steve Morocco, he wrote a really shitty headline. He literally wrote a headline of something that I didn't say. He said that I said it, but it was something I didn't say.
Okay.
And it was just a shock headline, and it was meant to create drama and controversy, and it was meant to like stir the pot, and it was just really a shitty thing to do. Like it portrayed me in a way that wasn't accurate. It was deliberately shitty. And so it's like, to me, that's not reporting news. That's not reporting news at all. That's not what the media is there for. That was just, somebody in a position of power using his power in a really shitty way. And it left me in a really helpless position. So it was super hurtful. It was not cool at all. And I don't know what I can do except to keep speaking out about it. On The Ultimate Fighter, I was portrayed in a really negative light, and I signed an NDA with a non-disclosure agreement with Ultimate Fighter, so I can't always come forward and correct that. But I didn't sign an NDA with MMAfighting.com. I don't owe those people anything. I don't know why. To this day, I don't understand why they asked me to come on their podcast just so that they could throw me under the bus like that. It was a really awful thing to do, and there was a lot of backlash from it. And Stephen Morocco is going to go ahead and get paid for that article, and he's going to go on with his life, and he's not going to realize that I don't know if he's ever going to realize that, the damage that he does. And I wish that people in the media were better at paying attention to things like that. Like the athletes that they report about are human. Like, I'm a real person, and I didn't deserve to have a stranger treat me like that. And then to have all the hate that followed from it and all the drama and negativity, like, that was not at all what I wanted out of going on that A-Side podcast. And so for me, it's confusing and it's hurtful, and it leaves me in a pretty vulnerable position. I feel really helpless most of the time about it. And I'm really not sure what I can do, to try and fix that. Certainly MMA fighting is never going to do anything to try and fix it. But I wish that they, before they wrote things, I wish that they would think about how it affects the athletes, because it does get depressing. And somebody like Hannah Kimura is it's a tragic thing that she felt like there was no way out for her except to commit suicide. That's awful. And that's largely based on, the media surrounding her.
Mm-hmm. Personally, it might sound a little bit cringy, but I've seen things like that happen more often than not, and it hurts me a little bit because I've been doing this over a year, close to a year, and I've seen articles and people, because I've talked to many, many people, and people do it to, like, up themselves and not think about, like, the other side, I guess you could say. Like, they're doing it for themselves. I don't know if that makes sense, but it feels bad for me, too. I know it obviously hurts people who suffer from it, but it's hard to explain. So I appreciate you for opening it up like that.
Thanks for asking me about it. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries. So hopefully we can do our best to fix something like that to prevent future problems. Cute dog, by the way.
Thanks. Her name's Penny.
Penny. She looks kind of like the same color as a penny, actually, now that I realize it. Yeah, so last one I got for you, what advice could you give someone who may suffer from that? Because obviously people think fighters have, like, an upper edge on them, or maybe they're some different, but you guys are humans as well. So what advice could you give to someone else?
Well, I think it's important to keep speaking out about it. Like when Stephen Morocco wrote that headline and I spoke out about it, he actually called me. I don't know why he called me, because he never really did anything to make it right.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was just calling to, like, try and explain himself and kind of make excuses. And, like, one of the things he told me, he was like, it's not personal, I'm just, in the media, I need to get clicks. I'm just doing my job. But it's like, saying that it's not personal is just something that people say when they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important that people keep speaking up about it and saying, like, this isn't right and it's not okay, and I am a person, I'm a real person, and to frame me in that kind of light is not acceptable. I think it's important too to try and stay positive and to just keep pressing forward, and just remember that social media is not always real. The stuff that the media puts out there is not always real. What is real is, like, my relationship with my husband, and what is real is my relationship with my coaches and my teammates and the people that I see every day, and the opinions of people that I respect a lot. So Stephen Morocco definitely lost all my respect when he pulled his little stunt that he pulled, and even though it was really hurtful and really shitty and a terrible thing to do, like, I'm strong enough to pick myself up and keep moving forward. I don't really have any other choice.
That's the thing. Some people, they're not able to say that. So it's glad to hear you can say that. So last one I got, I'm pretty sure I said that last time, but before I let you go, it would be awesome if you could thank anyone you feel is necessary. The floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, I have a couple really great sponsors right now. Blackout Coffee has been doing a really great job, and they have an awesome product. So if you go to my Instagram profile, there's a link in my bio, and you guys can get money off, a percentage off, and the coffee's delivered right to your door, and it is really, really good. If you're looking for a good CBD product, Rod Key's CBD is awesome. It's super clean product. It's helped me through a couple camps now. I really appreciate them. And then I just want to thank everybody at Main Street Muay Thai and Boxing here in Houston, and also everybody at Gracie Baja Katie, because they're just awesome. I train at Henzo Gracie a lot here in Houston as well. But most of my main MMA training comes from Gracie Baja Katie and from Main Street Muay Thai. And I just love those guys, and I love my coaches. So big shout out to them.
Awesome. So it was cool having you on, and hopefully you can stay strong, and best of luck on your fight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So stay safe.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Peace out.
Bye.